It's Spoilerin time, the companion show to Cordkillers. On the Cordkillers show, we talk about how to watch things. On Spoilerin time, we've watched them, and we get to talk about them and have some fun. This week, we are talking about Deadwood, the 7th episode of the 3rd season, and Preacher, season 3, episode 7. Of course, joining me, I'm Tom Merritt, and with me, Brian Brushwood.
Joining me, I'm Tom Merritt. I like that. That's pretty good. And this is usually the part
I was hoping you didn't notice.
where I say, let's check in on the final twilight hours of the summer movie draft.
Also, Hammond's here.
Oh my
God, Brian.
Hammond's here because he was on Cordkillers, and he just wants to hang out and get spoiled. He hasn't watched any of these
It's going
shows.
great. Keep going. Keep going.
Hammond, who did you think was going to win the movie draft?
You guys?
Yeah.
Well, we weren't on the
about
same
that.
team,
Okay.
but both of us had a shot. And right now, we're in 2nd and 3rd place, respectively, behind Team John Trekker.
Distant 2nd and 3rd place. Really, I mean, it's
Over $200 million. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Hammond, do you ever play in the Chat Realm League? You ever throw together your own personal movie draft?
I haven't, and it's been a goal of mine since I started podcasting to join in on this.
Well, I mean, okay. Late to action. That's fine.
Next season.
We'll make that happen. Meanwhile, congratulations go to X Modem, who's currently ranked number 1 and looking like he cannot be unseated.
Well, and what's really cool is 1.269 million for X Modem.
Billion.
A hair's breadth in front of Mike Miz with 1.255 million.
Billion.
I'm sorry, billion. You're right. Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then behind that, Travis made me do it at $1.254 billion. I don't know, whatever. Crazy Rich Asians, which some people thought was going to make all the money in the world. We'll find out. It's the middle of August. Oh, also,
Mission Impossible Fallout is at 124 million, and will probably continue to make enough money for John Trekker to put them over $1 billion.
Yep. Also,
would that be the first billion in movie draft history?
No, I'm pretty sure we had one summer.
Did we have one before
that happened?
Okay.
Yeah. But also, the movie Mile 22 comes out on the 17th. Full disclosure.
Not in the draft.
I know. Not in the draft, but also at the time of the draft, it was not determined what the release date was going to be. Mm-hmm. And then also, separate thing is they reached out to us and they had us learn fight choreography, and me and Jason Murphy killed each other with knives. Here, you want to see it? Look at that. See that? That's not another nipple. That's a bruise from a knife.
You've been in a knife fight. I could tell.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, Crazy Rich Asians coming out this week. Team Tell It Anyway only needs it to make $600 million. $550 million.
What if they were right? What if it's like the unbelievable surprise of the whole summer?
That would be amazing. And then Slender Man comes out and makes $800 million for Chips Bitch.
We're like, what?
All right, let's get into Spoiled Preacher. What'd you think of this episode?
So this one was a little bit. I'm gonna say the word flatter than usual, and I don't mean that it fell flat. What I mean, it was more direct, and it's like you and I have talked about how one of the things I really like in my content is to briefly feel grounded and then have everything flipped asunder. I feel like this is one of those episodes where I almost have a grasp on where everything's headed, and I fully expect them to subvert everything. And unlike usual, I did watch the snippets from next week's episode, which seemed to indicate that that's exactly what's going to happen. Number one, very emotional journey, because I saw that the title of the episode was Hitler, and I got very excited, and I was like, oh my God, this episode's about Hitler. And then I thought, did I just say I'm excited about this episode of Hitler? Then I saw that I had misread it, and it's actually spelled Hilter, and I was like, oh, wait, Hilter isn't Hitler. And then I thought, wait, am I experiencing real disappointment that I read the words Hilter instead of Hitler? And then I thought
then the episode was flat.
Yeah, well, and then my last thought was, thank you, preacher.
Well, and a later thought was probably like, there wasn't as much Hilter as I thought there would be.
Yeah, it was off Hilter. Okay, so in the previously on, we see the reminder of the moment that he gets the head injury that makes his head. There's a reason he's wearing hats all the time, and I realized like, oh wait, no, that was a subtle enough moment that I don't feel bad for not having recognized that before. Second of all, way not interested in the grandma subplot. It seems like they've reached some kind of truce.
It's not the subplot, it's the plot.
Yeah, right? Okay. I guess I'm not interested in the plot. Very much loving the forced buddy cop begrudging professionals matchup between
Tulip and what's her face
and what's her face, right? And the fact that and third disposable person who almost certainly will be killed the moment they land in Japan, right? But the star.
Oh, I thought the other person with them was Jody. No.
No. Jody's the black guy, right?
No, Jody's the big guy. The big guy that's part of Grandma's crew.
Oh, you know what? I just saw. Oh, you're right. I just saw a big guy in
and I was confused because I was like, I don't remember Jody going along on this, but I guess he is.
Yeah. Okay. Jody's dead. I'm assuming. I'll tell you, the real star of the show though is this was bromance, now actual romance with. And I was wrong. I thought all of this was a con job. I thought that the vampire Lestat was going to be a fraud, and he was a fraud. But he's a fraud
the way we thought.
Who actually flies and actually transforms into other animals and actually runs a coven and actually turns people and enjoys delicious human blood. And also, I'm well played. I felt like I got outmatched by the geniuses in the chess game of Preacher, and I was very happy and satisfied with it.
This is actually one of the very, very tiny, minuscule, infinitesimal disappointments in Preacher this season is that when I realized, okay, he's probably not imaginary like we thought, I'm like, well, there is something up with him. He's going to turn out to be not on the level. He's manipulating Cassidy. If he's real, he's up to something. And when he said, because you're a junkie, and then played it off as, but I love it. I'm like, oh, he's after Cass. He's after Cass for some reason. I didn't know why. And then of course it turned out that in fact, yes, he is a shyster who gets these cool secret powers that Cassidy can't quite seem to manage by eating the people he supposedly sends flying. And that was the other thing. I'm like, when they were like, you're going to go flying. Of course, flying means being on an airplane. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It means something else. And I was right about that. So those two things were the few times where I felt like I knew what they were doing and they steered into what I expected. But that's so rare with Preacher that I don't even get mad because it's a good steering. It's not like it's predictable in the general sense.
For any particular story, the moment you hit the end game, there's only so many moves to make. And the best thing you could do in the end game is at least give me a move that's different from the move that I thought you were going to do
everybody makes
a long time ago. Right. And they definitely did that.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, I liked Hitler's speech.
Well, I actually am curious, and I don't know enough German to be able to look it up.
That sounded like pretty faux German.
Like, that must be real. That must be just a real speech by him.
I don't know. There were
modified,
too many words,
obviously, to fit the premise that he's behind a sandwich shop and talking about the United States, but that all felt real. That felt like real rhetoric.
I would love to know if there's somebody who speaks German because so many of the words were, and I understand language oftentimes has crossovers where words are the same words.
I'm just going on what was translated.
There's
I have no
a
idea if he was
lot.
speaking actual German.
Like I would say almost a third of what he was saying was exactly what the subtitles said.
Okay.
And right, so that made me think that maybe there was some shenanigans happening in there.
We've got one person in the chat room saying that it was bad German.
So gibberish. To be honest, only makes me love that moment more. I did not love that we're seeing no progress. I don't like the impending collapse back to the mean that we're seeing with Eugene and Hitler. I was excited to see Eugene out of hell, out on the road.
Yeah, and then he got caught right away. And
Right.
now the Saint of Killers has showed up with Hilter. And I guess that story is going to be over.
Well, certainly it feels that way. And of course it's not.
That's all there is with Preacher. If it's over, it's over. There's no surprises coming, Brian.
I'm just saying that I would prefer to not feel like that's where it's headed, especially since the next
but
week.
if you don't feel that way, the surprise can't be as good.
Maybe. I don't know.
So
if there was no Hitler, you couldn't win World War II.
Yeah. Sorry. What's up, Hammond?
Oh, I just wanted to ask a question. In the soundtrack to the episode, did they ever play Hilter Skelter?
No, and they really should.
Speaking of which, man, the more we're 3 seasons into Preacher's opening theme song, and I think it might be one of the top 10 best theme songs in all of television.
It's not even so much that it's a great theme on its own. It just always comes in making you feel like, all right, here we go. You know?
I think
like
it might
fits the show so well. It's that swampy New Orleans, like.
Well, and it's also on point for the show itself because it speaks of exquisite execution, right? Where it's like, even though the theme is complex, nuanced, it does convey, Louisiana, South, a little bit of dirty pool, but it also is rich, like with those vocals underneath. In fact,
the Heavenly Choir as a counterpoint to that swampy sound. Yeah.
Right. And what I assume is a minor key because I don't speak music. I almost want to take a moment to listen to it as soon as we're done with this episode. But it's great. It's great.
One other. I want to call this a scientific proof of the attraction of Preacher.
Okay.
Is that Eileen sometimes will be in the room when I'm watching Preacher, but she doesn't keep up with it. And she'll pay attention or not. But the line where Herr Starr says, I am sending you to Japan. You will land here. Now, there is a lovely sushi restaurant nearby. You probably won't have time, but if you do have time, you should get the omakase. Keep your receipts.
Oh, yeah.
She just started laughing involuntarily at that entire little exchange. Like, what is that about? That's hilarious. I'm like, that's Preacher right there. Exactly.
Herr Starr, not in the center 3 characters. Maybe the 3rd best character of the show, possibly ahead of Tulip, possibly ahead of Jesse, definitely not ahead of Cassidy.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite characters. Full stop.
Anything else about Preacher?
It's great. It's great. It's great.
All right, let's talk about Deadwood, which can be great. Was it great for you this week? I don't feel like it was bad for me this week. I don't know if I'd say great. There were a lot of canned peaches. Made me want to eat some canned peaches with cinnamon.
I understand that there is a place for general tension without release in certain episodes of a show.
And I felt last week was a good example of that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Last week, meaning the episode we talked about last week, not this episode that we're talking about now.
Sure. To clarify, there are sometimes I can enjoy the tension in and of itself, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're still tantrically extending this tension, and it's amazing that they're doing that. And the mere fact that they're refusing to give release and collapse these narratives is a poetic and artistic statement unto itself. I didn't necessarily feel it that way. I just felt bad for Doc. I felt bad for the town because they read a letter, I guess. I felt bad.
Yeah,
I felt bad.
I feel like I'm missing something because the letter that they read, I get. I'm like, oh, okay, this is an embarrassment to Hearst, and it shows that the people of Deadwood are led by a good, solid sheriff who cares about his people. Printing it in the Deadwood press, I don't see what that gets you.
It's well, and they definitely spend the second half of the episode explaining what an impotent move that ultimately is, and then basically 5 different characters say, well, I don't know what else we could do.
Which usually means, oh, these bumpkins, they don't understand the genius behind this move, but I'm the bumpkin now. I'm right because I'm right there with them. Like, yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. Well, and what I think if that's an admirable quality of this episode is even as they do it and we're there with them and we feel what they're feeling, it like they know how impotent a move this is. And then I very much liked the moment that the Russian telegraph operator essentially became part of our family by saying, hey, I've hit a dividing line. I am unwilling to stand by passively as this happens. I am one of you now. And
I have a code and this violates my code and therefore I am on your side.
And in that moment, I realized like, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that we had a side, but I feel it now. And all of a sudden I looked around the town of Deadwood and felt differently about everyone, about the widow Bullock, about the about Bullock, about Star, that very tender, sweet moment where Trixie and Star hold hands, and even if for a brief moment consider the possibility of taking on the tow-headed child as a ward.
Sophia, yeah.
It was there are moments. This was an intentional calm before the storm episode. Unfortunately, I can't view it out of the context of knowing that this third season is quote unquote it until the movie.
I keep forgetting that. Like every time I go back to the screen to pick my episode, I'm like, oh wow, there's not that much left. Because it does feel like we're headed, and this is probably the tragedy that people who watched it when it was new felt. It feels like we're headed on a long ride, right?
Although
that's what these shows feel like.
It was announced before the release of this third season that this was going to be it. So my guess is the confusion that we're feeling now is the same confusion that fans felt at the time.
Yeah. I don't know. Also, Alma still breaking my heart.
Yeah, but also there's an honesty happening, with her and Mr. Ellsworth and Mr. Ellsworth. I mean, he once again proving he is the better man. Like, no. You really don't need me around. Like, look, you're already better. Right.
And she's like, no, but yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah. Also, Jewel continues to increasingly be my favorite character in the show. Like
Jewel?
Yeah.
Jewel. Yeah.
What displays the one who displays with cerebral palsy or whatever.
Yeah.
And her sophistication, her quiet confidence, her stoicism, her being very aware of the reality that she lives in and somehow still finding joy in it is just the best thing.
It's a delightful character and well used.
Yeah.
Right. It could be used in a pandering way. It could be used in a patronizing way. And it's not. It's used in a human way. Yeah. That's the best.
Well, and she feels like the best of weirdly, her and Wu are where I find the most inspiration. I feel like everyone else in Deadwood can't even. Give me a week to come up with this. I'm going to figure out why Wu and Jewel are my favorite characters in Deadwood. I don't have the words for it just yet. Give me a pause on that.
All right. Meanwhile, Deadwood episode showing why it takes a common enemy to unite people, because Swearingen and Bullock side by side now fighting Hearst.
Yeah, but even Hearst not actually doing anything yet. Like outside of crying and apologizing to the daughter of his slave cook
daughter?
Mistress. What? That scene where he tears up and cries and says, "Oh, look at me crying at." That's in front of what's his name, right?
Well, I remember him crying, but
who was in the room? It was the scamster son, right? Liberia.
So the son, yeah, not the daughter.
Well, right, the son of his. Nobody said daughter. I don't think. Of his.
Okay, the word daughter came up and confused me. Yes, I know what scene you're talking about now.
Yeah.
I thought I was missing a character.
Right. And that weird negotiation where he talks about the importance of the color, and he's like, "Excuse me, sir," and he's like, "No, I'm talking about the gold, son." I don't know. That felt like a masterful false display of humility and weakness on the part of Hearst. And I'm still terrified of the simmering rage underneath him.
All right, folks. Anything else about Deadwood before we go?
It's not as good as So You Think You've Got the Talent to be the America's next top podcasting idol.
You got it all out, Brian. That's good.
Nailed it.
You win.
Search for those words. I'm sure that they'll only lead you to one place.
Yeah, thank you, Hammond, for hanging out with us even and letting us spoil you.
No, hey, you know what? More than anything, it was just spending more time with you guys, which I don't get to do enough.
We love Hammond.
And if you love Hammond, you'll back us on Patreon at patreon.com.
That's the only way to show Hammond. Don't go to his Kickstarter. Back us on Patreon.
Brian Ibbett's Kickstarter, not mine.
It's not even his Kickstarter.
It's not even his?
That sounds
I'm his producer on this show. I'm not even a face on this, really. I'm just kind of a guy behind the scenes.
Stop
stage
the violence.
Hammond himself saying, don't support that other thing. Support our show.
Thank you. And you'll get Spoilerin time early, plus After Talk. Want to know what that is? Back us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll talk to you next time.
Find out. Bye.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.